Okay, I think I am now. Yes. So you must create a folder. That folder is called your project directory. Now you need to open up this folder with VS Code. I am trying to drag and drop here. Please come, Lawal, you can ask your question. So I have my folder opened up with VS Code. That's the first thing I have here. Now, when it comes to backend, as a backend developer, I've tried to explain this so many times. You are the brain behind the project. You are the brain behind the software. Although I am teaching you backend, I'm just teaching you how to think as a backend developer. What I might teach you may not be what you will be building by the end of this program, because backends, although backends are the same, but it depends on how you see the problem, and that's how you will build it. A client might come to you and say, I want to build a project that allows people to monitor their gas, maybe gas in the house, or maybe for people to make payments. Now, depending on different kinds of projects, so how you choose to approach it might be different, but they are all backends and they follow the same principles. Now, if you are very good as a backend developer, you will know that they are all the same, but most times they are just similar, just small things that differ from one backend to another. I think I have your assignment. I have this assignment for the last one. I have your assignment. I think so. I want to believe I have the first one, second one, and the third one. So that's settled. So, but before you move in as a backend developer, there are a few concepts you need to understand, and there are a few things you should install. I will start by, let me write index.js. So first, you should install Node, and I made that clear the first time. Install Node, install Postman. Install Node and install Postman. Now you can go ahead to install Git, because we might be using Git later, but install Git now. In order to install Git and Postman and all of them, let me just show you where. Now, if you don't install this, it will be difficult to follow me when I'm working. Open that up. So Git download. Yes, and you should see Git here and download Git. Next one is Node download. You should see Node here and download. And the third one is Postman download. And you should see Postman here. So the most important ones is Node, Postman, and Git. Now you download these ones and you install them. They are very, very important. So that being said, I will close this. If you have any questions, okay, I don't understand without having to use data. Okay, I'll check with that and I'll get back to you on that. So, but the videos on YouTube, they're actually compressed and made smaller, so that way you can view them with less data. I don't know the first two videos you're talking about, but I will check that and I will get back to you. So, but the questions now, let's continue. As a backend developer, there are a few concepts you need to understand before we continue. And I will explain a few of these concepts, but I want you to have in mind that every backend developer has a tendency of getting jobs. Every backend developer. Number one, the reason is There are no enough backend developers. That's one. But in the market, in the real world, nobody is ready to hand over their backend to a beginner. I mean, if you're a backend developer and you are a beginner, you know just simple. Let's say you're just a beginner. Nobody will give you their backend to handle. The audio is breaking. I don't understand. Should I again? Okay. Please do let me know if the audio is better now. So, like I was explaining, nobody is willing to hand over their back-end server to a beginner because that is the most important part of the software. So that I know this because of course I work as a back-end developer. So what I will do is that I will teach you what you need to know to be a standard back-end developer. I have begged them to watch the old videos. I've actually referred them to the videos on Google Classroom. And I think there's only one person that said he has watched it but doesn't understand. So I think I will need to talk with them on a one-on-one class, but they should try and follow today's class and every other classes we have. Otherwise, except they want to run their own classes, a parallel class for them, but I don't think that's possible. So for the newbies, please, we already have recorded videos. Like these videos covers everything we've done so far, and I don't know how else to say it. For you to follow us, you need to watch these videos. You need to watch them and understand them. Then, if you have any questions based on what you've watched, or you need more explanations, then I can do a new video or maybe attend to them in class. But there's no way I will know what challenges you are having or where to come in if you don't watch the videos. So to follow us up as a backend developer, you need to know where we are coming from. You need to watch the first or the previous videos. If you have questions, please drop your questions for us. We will gladly help you. If I'm not there, there are a lot of persons who are already following the class and they will attend to you. Please, please, it's very, very important. But that does not mean that you cannot follow today's class. No, even if you've not watched the videos or the previous classes, please pay attention to today's class. And I think I'm very sure you should be able to pick up one or two things from today's class. The Git website doesn't seem to be working, and I'll be trying to install it using PowerShell on my computer. I don't think you need terminal to install it. Just Git uh Git download, and the website is this one. So if you click this one, so if you try this, and this is the website, this is where I downloaded mine from. So here you should pick your operating system if you're using Windows or Mac. And then for Windows, it's very simple. You should see download from Windows there. Just click download and install now. Except you're using Mac, that's where you have a special way of installing Git. But if you're using Windows, just click here. You see download for Windows and then download. Should be very easy if you're using. But if you still don't have Git, no problem. We'll get to Git later. So where was I? Okay, I was explaining now. Backend is very broad. That's one. Now I want you to understand certain things before I start. Backend is very broad. That's one. Number two, nobody's going to hire you as a beginner on backend. Nobody's willing to hand over their server to a beginner. Nobody does that. You should be at least a middle level developer or intermediate developer or an advanced developer. So your training is purely intermediate. That is why I said you are no longer a beginner. Your training here is purely intermediate. Now, I will explain a few concepts and then move to the main thing. Now, it's not everything I will cover. I will explain a few concepts, then move to the main thing. The main goal here is that you should be able to handle a backend on your own. That is the goal. So if you follow me, you should be able to handle any backend server on your own. And if you attend my class, you are no longer a beginner. So if you're applying for jobs, you're attending interviews, please never mention that you're a beginner. You are not a beginner. I was called by a firm to interview somebody today, and the questions I actually gave to the person are questions from your assignment. So this person is not a beginner, but the assignment, the interviews are questions I gave to you. So if you submit my assignments, then you can pass any interviews. So you're not a beginner. These are like the three things I want you to understand. Number one, backend is very broad. I may not cover everything. Number two, nobody will hand over the server to a beginner. So your training is purely intermediate level. That's where you are on. And the reason is so that you should be able to handle a backend on your own. Now, most beginners cannot handle a project on their own. They know it, they know how it works, they can explain to you, but they can't handle the project on their own. So there's no point bringing you to a beginner. We're taking it a step forward so that you can handle the project on your own. And number three, I'll just explain a few concepts and move to the main thing. What are those few concepts? The first one is IP address. IP address. Now, as a backend developer, you should understand how IP addresses work. Now, IP addresses are a set of numbers, and these numbers are used to connect to servers. And what is a server? I know most of us watch action movies. Then in action movies, you will see just small computers stacked together, blinking blue light, red light. In movies, you see them, and all the computers are blacks, connected with wires and all of that. So that is a server. That's a backend server. Now that server is feeding so many computers around the world. So that's a server and it's feeding so many computers around the world. Now, for these computers to connect to that server, each of those servers, how do I bring this down to? Okay, each of those computers connected together, blinking blue light, each of them is a server connected together. And the number of lights that each one is blinking actually tells the number of IP address and the number of computers it can handle or it can feed. So for you to be able to connect to one of those computers that is blinking that light, you need to know the IP address of that particular computer. So you cannot connect to a backend or you cannot connect to a server without knowing the IP address. Now you must know the IP address. Now IP address is divided into two, the main part and then the port number. Now the port number is just like the opening to the computer. For example, those of us that have a flash drive, you know that you have a part in the computer where you can plug your flash drive. So that's like the port. And the port there is the channel of which this flash and the computer will connect or maybe share files together. So that's the port number. You need to know the IP address and the port number before you can connect to that server. So if you are making requests, of course, you've made requests to a backend. If you are making requests, you should know the address you are making that request to. Now, but because IP addresses are long numbers and difficult to remember, they were now matched with words that we call domains and ports. So when we are making our request to that JSON placeholder, we were using domain names. Now, but that domain names is actually masking, let's say it is covering an IP address, because you cannot remember the IP address. So they just bring out a domain name and then attach it to an IP address. Now, when you make request to that domain name, the server picks the domain and check which IP address is associated to that domain name. So that is how you are making requests to a particular IP address, but you are not typing the IP address, you are typing the domain name. And all of this happen over HTTP request. And I'm sure we have done different type of requests: the get request, the post request, put request, delete request, so many of them. The HTTP request. And this is called hypertext transfer protocol. So hypertext transfer protocol. That's what HTTP stands for. So for you to communicate to a server, you should be making HTTP requests. Now, that server will not respond to you unless you are calling the exact IP address of that server. But because you cannot remember IP addresses, the IP addresses are now matched with domain names. So instead of making requests to the IP address, you make requests to the domain name, and then the server picks the domain and checks which IP address is associated to that domain. And then the backend will respond to you. That's the one part. Now, on the second part, as a backend developer, what is your job, or what is expected of you to do? There are so many things expected of you to do. The first thing is to set up the server. It's your job to set up the server. Now set it up running. Now when your server is running, and that means you set it up, it is not doing any good, because developers need to make requests to it. So for you to, the second thing is you need to ask your server to start listening for requests. Listen for requests, or listen to requests. How about additional S in the end of HTTP? Okay, now the S there, we are talking about the security, HTTP and HTTPS. That's not the when we say HTTP request, that's the part you're going to. You're not differentiating when a website is secure and when it's not secure, and that's not the part we're getting into. We're just talking about the transfer protocol, the request type, and making requests. So, but we might get to the part you are driving at, the S there. Why is my audio breaking? What's going on? Why is my audio breaking? Okay. Okay, I hope it will be better. I'm sorry about the audio. I'm sorry. But let's continue. Now, you set up the server. You make sure that the server is listening for requests. And secondly, now, when you listen to requests, you should accept the request. Accept the request. Now, when you accept the request, you do something for the, or maybe whatever the developer is asking you to do, you do it, and then you send back a response. So your server is not complete until it listens, accepts, and sends back response like that. So accept, I think I should be writing it down. Accept, do something. You have to do something, and then maybe send back a response. You must send back a response. Definitely, it's compulsory to send back a response. Now, the next thing is you should set up a database. Set up a database and connect the database to your server. Now, this is your primary job as a backend developer. So I'll be teaching you how to set up the server, how to listen to requests. Now, this part where you accept the request, you do something and you send back a response, is actually the part where you start building APIs. An API is application programming interface. So this is where, or this is what we will be doing. Now, if you have any question on what I've explained so far, please drop a question in the question and answer topic so that I can attend to it before we continue. If you have a question, please drop a question in the question and answer topic. So now, the first thing, like I said, is to set up a server. There are so many ways to set up a server when it comes to Node.js, but we will not go to how will I put it, setting it up manually. You can set it up manually, but that will be you doing a hard job. And when it comes to accepting the request and sending something back, there are so many things you can send back. And we're going to talk about the different type of responses you should send back and also your database. So any question on what I've explained so far? Any question? Okay. IP address is a set of numbers. Now that number is a number on every server. There are so many servers around the world. So the server you want to connect to, you should know the IP address of that server. So it's a set of numbers. Now, but because you cannot remember IP addresses because they are so long, now each IP address is now marked with letters. Now those letters, they are now called domain name. So instead of numbers now, it is now text, just like www.myname.com. Marked in between that myname.com is an IP address to a particular server. So if you cannot remember numbers, you should be able to remember letters, that's text. So that's the difference between IP address and domain. Now the two of them are connecting to the same server. The IP address is the numbers, while the domain name. How do you know the IP address? Now, you are the backend developer. You will be the one to generate domain names. If you want to, there are so many places you can buy domain names, and then those domain names come with IP addresses. So it is up for you to buy, register, and then send it out like that. Okay. Sorry about that. So that's done. Now, if you install Node, of which I'm guessing you have, if you've installed Node, Node comes with a package manager, and we call it the NPM. Now, this is Node Package Manager, NPM. You only get access to this NPM when you have installed Node. So you must install Node. That is the only time you have access to NPM. Now, NPM allows you to set up your backend project, install dependencies you want to use. Can we have two domain name connected to one IP address? Now, that is your choice. You can do that. There are so many cases where you want to do that. If the company that owns that server has changed their name, but the domain name they are currently using has not expired, and you've gotten a new domain name, so of course you can have two of them connecting to the same server. The same server like that. But most times I don't know why you want to have two domain names. You should keep one. But I think if the company has changed their name or there's a rebranding and they've gotten a new name and the old one has not expired, you should be redirecting people that go to the old name to the new name pending when the old one will expire. So like I said, this is NPM. If you want to build a backend project, you need NPM to help you set up the project, manage the project, and install dependencies you want to use in the project. Now, I'm going to explain what dependencies are later and all of that. But to set up a backend project, here, I already have this. I will delete this. So the first thing I want to do here is open up my terminal that is in VS Code, and I'll say npm init. Now you can only do this when you have installed Node. Otherwise, you can't do this. Now, what is npm init? I am trying to initialize npm. In a layman's language, I'm trying to hand over this project to npm to set it up for me. I want to build a backend project. I can't set it up myself. I need npm to set it up. So npm init is like initializing npm in the project, or better put, we are initializing npm inside the project. Npm inside the project. So when I type npm init and I hit enter, now it will tell me this utility will walk you through the process of creating a package.json file. I will explain what the package.json file is. It only covers the most common items and so on and so on and so forth. So the first thing is asking you here is, what is the package name? Now this package name is the name of the project you are building. I can call it a school server if I want, or if I don't type anything, it's actually asking me, should you leave it as BE1? So here is suggesting, is the project name BE1? Okay, I was trying to explain before. When you install Node, Node comes with npm. npm is Node Package Manager. Now, there are so many things that comes with Node, so many apps, so many, what is it called? How do I put it? Dependencies, so many things you can use with Node. And all of these things come as a package. So the moment you install Node, then you have access to these packages. So many things that Node can do, you have access to them. Now, you can only have access to them when you call the package manager, which is what? npm. So to gain access to those things that come with Node, you need npm to be able to access those packages. So that is why it is called npm, Node Package Manager. It manages all the packages that comes with Node. That being said, what is Node.js? I think I didn't explain that part. What is Node.js? We have been writing HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And if you have a question, yes, go ahead and download. That's it. This is version 2. Go ahead and download. So what is Node? We'll be writing JavaScript all this wise. And as a backend, a lot of persons use different programming languages in the backend. Some people use Python, some use Java, and some PHP, Laravel, so many of them. But it was discovered that if I already know JavaScript, which is a front-end programming language. Now, JavaScript is a front-end programming language. Now, if I already know JavaScript, I can also write that JavaScript on the back end. Now, the difference is this. On the front end, the browser will actually be running JavaScript, but the browser does not understand back end. So the backend has nothing to do with if you've installed it. How you would know you have it installed? I think I should create. Now, if it opens up with command prompt, just type in node space -v to see whether it shows you the version of npm. If it does, then you can close it and then continue. So, like I said, on the backend, a backend is like, I don't know if you've heard somebody calling your name, but you don't know who's calling you and you can't see who's calling. That's like a backend. So talking to the browser from a backend is more like calling somebody's name and the person doesn't know where you are or where you're calling their name from. They just know that I can hear my name, but I don't know who is calling me and I don't know who is talking to me. That is backend, behind the scene. Backend means behind the scene. So we can actually write JavaScript on the front end, which we have been doing, and it is showing up on our browser. But it was later discovered that this JavaScript, I can also write it on the back end. So we are not writing a new programming language. We are still writing JavaScript. Now, the only difference is on the front end, JavaScript will run on its own. It will run perfectly on its own on the browser. But on the back end, the JavaScript will not run on its own. You need something to run it. So we are writing JavaScript, but we are using something else to run the JavaScript. And that is what we call Node. So if someone asks you, what is Node? Node is a JavaScript runtime, meaning it runs JavaScript on the backend. And I think I should have it on the homepage. Yes, now it says NodeJs is a free open source cross-platform JavaScript runtime environment. So basically, we're just saying the JavaScript that I'm writing on the front end that runs on its own. If I write it on the back end, it will not run on its own. I need something to run it. And what am I using to run it? I am using Node to run it. So we are not writing a new programming language. Rather, we are still writing JavaScript, but we are using Node to run it. Good. That being said, and what else? So I said here, the first thing you need to do is set up npm in order to call this a Node.js backend. Otherwise, it is not a Node.js backend. It's only a Node.js backend if it is initialized by npm, and npm is simply Node Package Manager. So you say npm init and hit enter. Now it throws up this message that will walk you through creating a package.json file. I will explain what the package.json file means. The first question is, what is the package name? That is the project name. Now, if you leave it empty, it will take this by default. But if you have a name for the backend, you can type the name here, like I just did. So you can type any name here, any name you want. Let's call it school server, like that. So if I hit enter, sorry, the name can only contain, okay, the spacing. So I'll say school server. Now the next thing is the version. Because this is the first time I'm building this project, audio is breaking. Why is the audio breaking? I don't know. Yes, backend developers can actually do well on front end. Now, as a backend developer, there are so many things you might do. There are backend developers that write front end. There are backend developers that write front end because it's still the same JavaScript. But as a backend developer, your main job is not the front end, it's the functionalities behind the scene, the things that the user are not seeing. So you can actually do well on the front end as a backend developer because it is still the same JavaScript that we are writing. I want to be sure I'm recording for those who say the screen is breaking, the sound. So the first version is version 1.00. I want to maintain 1.00. I will hit enter. Description about the project. Now you can write any description you want if you have a description about the project, but I don't have any description, so I will leave it empty. The next one is entry point. This is the most important thing, the entry point. Now this entry point means what is the file that is the main file, or yes, the main file of this backend project. If you want to call it index.js, then you leave it like this and hit enter. If you want to call it main.js, then you type main.js and hit enter. Some persons call it app.js, and some persons call it server.js. Whatever you want to call it, be sure that this is the part where you set the main file. So, but I like to keep my own as index.js. You can keep yours as any name. Okay. Which one should I start from? Please, is your screen node interface, because mine is showing a different thing. How? Now, how I got here is I first created a folder called BE1, Backend 1. Open up this folder with VS Code. And the first thing I did was to type in, you know what, let me just go ahead and clear. Let's see. Yes. So I'm back here. This is empty. Everything here is empty. Now, if you open up the folder with VS Code, you should see this. And like I said, you must install Node first. So the first thing I did was clear. The first thing I did was npm init. That is npm inside it, and then hit enter. It will bring up this thing, and this will only work when you have installed Node. If you haven't, it will not work. So npm init, the first thing it's asking is the package name, which is the project name. If I want to keep it as BE1, then I'll hit enter. But if I have a name, I'll just type the name here. Let me call it school server. Then you hit enter. The next thing is the version of the project. This is the first time we're building this project, so I will leave it as version 1. Okay, I haven't done anything, Emmanuel. I haven't done anything. All I did was to just create a folder and open it up with VS Code. So you're not missing anything yet. I haven't done anything apart from the explanation I gave about IP address and domain names, which at this point doesn't really make it matter if you don't know how to do this. So sorry about that. If you can hear me, I will encourage you to still follow up. I haven't done anything. All I did was create a folder, open up that folder with VS Code. The first thing here was to type in npm init, hit enter. If you do that, it will bring you to this part where it's asking you the package name. The package name is the project name, and I choose to call it server, school server. You can call it anything, and then you hit enter. Then it will ask you for the version, which is 1.0. Now, this is version 1, the first time I'm creating the project. I will hit enter. It's asking me for description. Node looks like a command prompt. I'm trying to understand what you mean by it looks like a command prompt. So please turn up your mic. Mesoma, please go ahead. Unmute yourself and explain what you are trying to. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. Is she?
Okay. I was just replying the question. Maybe they are not understanding. Node looks like command prompt. So if they open Node directly, the package, I'll just explain to them.
Okay. All right. Back here. Now these steps, this is me trying to explain to you step by step. But after now, you won't do this thing again. So this thing is only done once, but I just have to explain it. After now, I won't explain this again. It doesn't really do much. So description, if you have a description, you enter the description, you hit enter. The entry point is the first file you want to create for this project, the main file. Now I want to keep my own as index.js. If you have any other name, you can name yours. Hit enter. Command test commands. For now, I don't have any. I'll leave it and hit enter. Git repo, I don't have any Git created yet. I'll leave it empty. Keywords, now keyword to be searched for. For now, I don't have any keywords. I'll leave it empty. The author, I'll just keep my name here as the author of the project. Then licensing, I'll keep the default license, ISC, keep it default. And then it's going to ask me, is all these things here, are they okay by me? The name of the project is school server. The version of the project is version 1. Description is empty. The main file is index.js. For the script, there's no test script. The author is David and the license is ISE. Is this okay? If I say tab, if I hit enter, then I mean yes. But if it is not okay with me, I can do all of this again, but I will hit enter. Now, if you hit enter, it will create this file. This file is called the package.json file. Do we have? I'm trying to understand how you got to this point. Now, you install Node the same way you install any other application. The moment you download the raw file, you just right click and maybe run as administrator or install. The same way you would install any other application, that's the same way you install Node. There's no special way of installing Node. Just download the raw file. Since you're using Windows, download the raw files, right click on it and run as admin. That's all. Follow the command lines. The wizard. I would ask you this. Go ahead and just hit enter, and you install. There's no special way of installing Node. No special way. Okay, we have done this, and it was a long process. But if you don't want to go through that long procedure, let me delete this. There's a very short way of getting it done, which is clear. If I type in npm init, now npm init will take me through the whole processes of typing, hitting enter, but I don't want that. I will just tap / yes. So if I hit hyphen, yes. Yes means I am saying yes to all the questions npm will ask me. So keep everything default and just go ahead and create the package.json file. So this is what this means. npm init -- yes. I am saying yes to all the questions that npm will ask, and I'll just create package.json file. Now you can also keep it short and say -y. It's still the same thing. 1-y, the same thing. You are saying yes to all the questions npm will ask you. Just go ahead and create package.json file. That's all. So what is a package.json file? Every backend project must have a package.json file. Every backend project. Now, if you are handed over any project that does not have a package.json file, it means you will start from the beginning to build that project. Now, and as a backend developer, if you are building or you're working on your project and you delete this file, just know that that backend project has become totally useless. You can't run that project again. You have to start building all over. So that's how important a package.json file is. It takes into account what the project is, the dependencies that was used to build the project, the scripts that the projects are running on, everything about the project. If you want to know about the project, they will all be in the package.json file. This is the most important file for any project, the package.json file. If you delete it, that's the end of that application, the backend application. It will not run again. If it's handed over to you without the package.json file, you will need to start building it from the beginning, start all over again. That's how important a package.json file is. So any information about the project, you will find them inside the package.json file. For now, our project is not big, and that's why we just have a small descriptions here. The name, the version, description, the main file, the script, the keywords, the author, and the license. Now, you can go directly in here and edit to anyone you want. Yes, you can do this. You can edit it directly here. You can change the name here if you want. It's your choice if you want. You can also change the version here if you want. So if you don't get the right information initially while you are trying to create the project, after it is created, you can also edit it. Now, if I don't want the main file to be indexed, I can change it to app.js. You can do this. And then you hit save, Control S, like this. But what you will not do is to delete the package.json file. The moment you delete it, that is the end of the project. That's one. I saw a story somewhere about a backend developer being sued after the company closed down. And I think it was because he deleted the package.json file, or maybe he deleted the database, one of them. So these two things, the database or the package.json file, actually tells the end of the project, the end of the whole company actually. So you don't do that. When you have your package.json file, the next thing to do is to create your main file. Here, whatever name that is here, that should be the file you will create. So for me, I have app.js. I can change it to index.js if I want, and then go ahead and create index.js. If I create index.js, I can then type in console log like this. Now, this is the normal JavaScript. This is a normal JavaScript file. There is no new thing. The only new thing here is this package.json file. And with this, it now tells us that we are working on a back-end project. And it says, welcome to Node. So what you will do is hit Control C and then type in node space -v to see whether you still see this thing at the top. If you see it, then you are set to start using Node. Control C to escape, or maybe to leave this, and then type in node space -v. If you still get this thing that is on top, npm version anything, then you are good to go. So like I said, you first create the first file, and this file must match with what you have here, the main file. If it doesn't, then your project will not run. And when you create it, the next thing is you start writing JavaScript inside here. We are writing the same JavaScript. The only difference with this is this JavaScript will not run on its own. Rather, you will use Node to run it. The JavaScript on the backend will not run on its own. Rather, you will use Node to run it. So here, you are not going to the browser. Instead, we open the console, and then we say node run index.js. Hit enter. Now it throws error because I think I used the keyword node. So let me remove run and hit enter. Now you are seeing what I typed in the console log. So let me write my console log again very well. So instead of this, I will just write my name. You know what? I think. So I am trying to console log my name. Sorry about the audio breaking, but I don't think it's from my end. But I'm really sorry, and I'm also recording this. You should get it after the class. So I'm trying to console log my name. Now, unlike the other part where we have this index file linked inside HTML file, here we don't have anything HTML. HTML is totally on the front end. And this JavaScript will not run on its own because this is the backend. You need Node to run it. Now, I will type in Node run index.js. I will get this error because it knows that this is backend and I don't need to tell it with the keyword run. Instead, I will remove the keyword run because if I do this, it knows that I am actually saying run. Still the same thing. So, but if you do this and it doesn't work for you, then you need to add the keyword run. But what we are doing here, we are using Node to run the JavaScript, which is what is done on the back end. Node index.js and hit enter. And okay, I didn't save this file initially. Let me save this file and then try it again. And now I get my name in the console. Now, unlike what we had in the front end, we get to see our console, whatever we console logged on the console. This is the back end. Whatever you console log, you will see it in the terminal. That's because this is the back end. So it is the same JavaScript. I can come down here and do something like const A is equal to 4, const B is equal to 4, maybe 5, and then const C is equal to A shift plus B, and then I say console log C like this and save it. Then here I need to use Node to run the JavaScript again, and I'll say Node index.js. Hit enter and I get 9. And that is because the variable A is 4, the variable B is 5. C is equal to A plus B, and which is 4 plus 5, 9. Which part are you lost in? I haven't done anything. I'm just talking about how to set up the environment. We've not started coding backend yet. We're just setting up. So tell me where you're having issues with what. Yes, just okay. That being said, do we have any question on how to create this package.json file and how to create the first file index.js or app.js and how to console log something in the terminal? Do you have any question? Your node is not working. I want to know why. So, Raymond, this is what you will do. Close your terminal, close everything, close everything. Create a folder first. Node is not defined. You are not giving space between this node. Now, the thing is node space hyphen and V are together. The hyphen and V are together. So, but there should be a space between the node and the V. Let's see. how to console log on terminal, how to create the file and setup. Okay, I'll do it again once. Now, if you don't understand, please just pay attention to what I'll do. I'll do the whole thing again. And Raymond, like I said, add space between node. Let me see. Node on then install the node again. Right click on the node. When it is time to install, instead of installing, click on repair. So install the node again, but click on repair and go ahead and continue the installation. That should solve your issue. But okay, let me do this again. I'll delete this one. I'll delete this one. So now I have an empty folder that is open with VS Code. The only difference is I have Node installed. And this will only work. Wait, are you typing Node or need? This will only work when you have Node installed. So I have an empty folder open with VS Code. I want to open the terminal, which is this. I have my terminal open. The first thing I want to do is npm init. Now, if I just type npm init, it will walk me through the steps of creating these informations one by one, and I don't want that. I just type in -- yes. So this is me saying yes to all the questions npm will ask me, and I want to keep everything default. This is yes. So this will work, and this also -y will also work. So anyone you do, they both work. So I'll hit enter, and it's asking me, is this okay with me? And it has created the file. So I can close this. Now I have a package.json file. And like I said, you can edit these things if you want. If you are not okay with them, you can edit them. So like here, I'll change this to app.js and save. Now, the next thing you want to do, sorry about that, Gabriel, sorry, but you will definitely get a recorded video and you have time to study the video. And that is why I'm not rushing the backend. I understand that for some persons, it's their first time seeing all of this. So I'm not going to rush it because I understand that it might be your first time. But I haven't done anything much. We are just setting up the environment. We've not done anything much. Trust me, you haven't. So we've created package.json file. You can edit this. The next thing you want to do is to create the main file, which is this. You need to make sure that any file you are creating as your main file must be the same name as this. Whatever is here, it doesn't matter whether it's ff.js, whatever is here, it has to be the same name you will create. So I'll create app.js. Now this is app.js, the same name that is here. Okay, now I have app.js. I can run console log. Console log 45 plus 56, whatever you want. Now we've done all of this before. I just want to show you that it is still the same thing on the back end. You can still do it. Now the only difference is this time you need Node to run this file. You can't run this file on its own. You need Node to run it. So I will open my terminal again, and then I will type in Node. Like I said, you need Node to run your app.js and hit enter. Now I have 101 in the terminal. This is how you can do anything here. For example, let me bring this down. I can create const g is equal to however you want it, and I can say const message instead of const message. Are you serious now? Is equal to backticks. Why do I have 5 here? Backticks, and I put I am $ quote G. Today is Sunday. No, today is actually Saturday. I have this, and I want to console log message msg save. And then down here, I will say node app.js and hit enter. And I am GFD. Today is Saturday. So the same thing we do in JavaScript. Like I said, the backend is still JavaScript. We are still writing JavaScript. The only difference is you can't run the JavaScript without Node. So we are using Node to run it. Hence, that is why Node is called a JavaScript runtime. But Node is not a programming language. It is a JavaScript runtime. So any question on what we have done so far? If you don't have any question and you are definitely sure that you can do what I just did now, please drop a thumbs up in the question and answer group topic so that we can continue. But if you have a question, please drop your question now. Okay, thank you. If you are certain you can do what I just did, create the folder, open it up with VS Code, run npm init, and then create your first file and run console log. If you can do it, then drop a thumbs up. How many persons? Good, okay. I want to still see more. If you have a question, go ahead. I try to install it where? I don't know why you are having this issue. You're not supposed to have these issues, especially because it's Windows you're using. Now, I don't know here I say that no app is available. It means you are trying to search for the app. Where are you searching for the app? You just go to Node, go to Google, type Node install. You will see this green button, click on download and install. It's on Ubuntu. Okay. And I think you still have the privilege of doing the same thing. I think so. I think so. Yeah. Okay. This version is not available for Linux. Let me see an older version. Now, I don't know if it is because I'm using Mac. That's why these are disabled. But be sure that the one you are downloading is for your operating system. Check and be sure that the version you were downloading, these are different versions. So this is the latest one, version 22. But make sure that you're downloading the one for your system. But it shouldn't be a difficult thing. Downloading those shouldn't be difficult. Gabriel, don't worry, you are going to follow along. Like I said, even if you don't catch, okay, a recap. I will do a recap, don't worry. This is for Windows. So if you click here, you are downloading for Windows. The $ is because we are using backticks to concatenate our strings. So So if we are using if we're using backticks to concatenate strings, we need to add the $ and the curly braces before we can concatenate strings. Yes, you are trying to install the Windows on Ubuntu, it will not work. All right, so we can continue from here. Now, for those who did not understand what same thing, are you serious? Reduce the version. Instead of getting version 22, maybe go with a lower version. They are the same thing. So don't bother about the version. Just check another version to see whether this will be enabled for you to download. But that shouldn't be an issue now. Install again, keep installing the node, and make sure you see the word repair. Use that word to repair. That's the only way. Use the word repair. Make sure you repair. And so what's this one? Okay, and then you're following. Nice. Use the word repair, but don't worry. If it sometimes I've had this issue with students. You will try installing Node while in class and it will not work. By the end of the class, if you try to install it again, it will work. So don't worry. Installing Node is not the problem. You have bigger challenges ahead. Installing Node is not one of them. But don't worry, you'll get to install Node later. So that being said, we can continue. But just one last recap for those who don't really understand or who are not following up. I'll delete this again. Delete this again. Now I have an empty folder that is opened up with VS Code. Node is the same anywhere. So wherever you see Node that is asking you to install, please go ahead and install. Anywhere you see Node is the same. Just install. So like I said, the first thing you do after you open up your folder is to initialize npm. And to initialize npm, you simply do npm init, npm init. And then if I hit enter, it's going to walk me through so many questions, but I want to say yes to everything. Yes to everything and hit enter, and it has created package.json file. This is the first step and is the most important step because it gives you the most important file, which is the package.json file. Under no conditions should you delete the package.json file. The moment you delete it, that is the end of that backend project. So when you have this is index.js as the main file. So your main file has to be the same name with what you are seeing here. So I will need to create a file and I will call it index.js. Hit enter. Now I can try any simple arithmetic or anything at all. Console log, let's say const g is equal to 24. Now say console log g times what? Maybe times 4, however I want it. And then save it. Then Node, you need Node in order to run this JavaScript. So index.js. This is me saying Node should run the file index.js. So I hit enter and I have 96 as the answer to this arithmetic, and that is it. So this is a simple recap. This is a simple recap, and from here we move on to the backend. So like I said, and I'm sure there's no other question except for those who are having issues on how to install Node. Sorry if you, but just find a way to install Node because you can't do this without Node. So let's say we have our package.json file and we have created our index file. The first thing to do is to set up a server. That is the first thing. I don't know the unexpected that will happen and that will cause you to delete the package.json file. Now, before you start your project, the moment you do this thing like this and you have this first thing and you set up the server, please push your code to GitHub so that whatever happens on your system, if you delete the package.json file on your system, you can recover it from GitHub. If you don't have your files backed up anywhere and you delete the package.json file, I don't think the HR will be smiling with you or will be telling you, just imagine, let's just imagine that you have an account with, for example, I don't want to mention any company, but let's just mention one. OPay, for example. Your money is on OPay and you try to log in and you can't log in. You try to access the money, you can't access it. You can't even log in. And then OPay comes out to tell you that, sorry, all the monies we have in our OPay account are all gone. We want to start from the beginning, and our developers made a simple mistake and they deleted the package.json file. So that is why our backend project is no longer starting, is no longer running, is no longer listening to a request. You can't log in. Do you think people will still allow OPay to continue running? Or if OPay creates another app and publish it out on the Play Store, that people will still install it? That's the end for OPay. If people's money, if they can't have access to their money and you tell them their money is gone, that is the end. Even if they forgive you, they're never using your app again. And so under no condition should you delete the package.json file. You need to have a backup somewhere, and it is better to have a GitHub backing you up. Like I said, what will you type to get the package.json? Prince, have you not been listening? Now, to do this, just type npm init hyphen dash dash. Now, this is dash dash. I'm calling it dash dash because some person may not understand what hyphen is. So put hyphen hyphen, double hyphen or double dash, and then yes. So if you hit enter, this will create a package.json file for you. But you can also go with a single hyphen and then Y. This will also create a package.json file for you. Now, I want to be sure that we can set up this environment before we go forward. So if you can do this, you know what? Let me rephrase it. If you cannot do this, please drop a thumbs up so that I know you cannot do it. But if I don't get a thumbs up, then it means that you can do it and I can proceed. I can continue. So drop a thumbs up if you cannot. If you cannot, are you serious? Really? Why? Okay, any other person? Okay. Okay. Are you serious? You can't see my screen. So, okay, I understand about yours, Raymond. You can't install NodeJs. I understand. Ekong, please unmute yourself and tell us why. What is the challenge? Ekong, where are you? Are you in this class? I can't find you, Akon. Please unmute yourself so that you can tell us what is going on. We are about to enter how to set up a server, and I don't want anybody to be... Now, I understand for those who are not able to install Node. Now, if you can't install Node, no issues. Just pay attention to what I'm doing so that whenever you are able to install Node, don't worry, even if you are not on your system, you will still have this video and you can follow up. The most important thing is if I do anything that is strange, it looks very, very strange, then you pay attention to that part. Apart from that, I think every other thing is... Is there anybody that is typing? Please let me know. What is the challenge? Where's it come? What? Okay. Who's this? Emmanuel, what is your own challenge? Last week video, I sent last week video now. Why you say you don't have it? Now, if you don't have it, don't worry. We'll still send it again and you'll still get it. I'll send it again. I'll still send it again. Do we have any other question so that we know whether we're going forward or we're going backward? Now, setting up NPM is very simple. So long as you have Node installed, it's very simple. All you need to do is just create a folder, open it up with VS Code, and run npm init-y. That's all. That's all you need to do. npm init-y only when you have Node installed. Any other question? Any other question? No question. Okay. For those who say they don't know how to do it, Gabriel, unmute yourself so that where is Gabriel? And then you can tell us what the challenge is. Gabriel, please go ahead. Tell us what is the challenge. Can you hear me? Are you serious right now? Hello, Gabriel, can you hear me? On creating server before the npm. No. We have not created server. God's favor. We've not created server. The first thing you need to do is create a folder. Then the moment you create a folder, you initialize npm. That's all. We've only initialized npm. We've not created any other thing. Just npm. Nothing yet. What's his name? I thought I had Gabriel here. Okay, I think he has gone off. Gabriel, please go ahead. If you can hear me, tell us what is the challenge. Quick recap on how to install Node. Now, to install Node is very simple. Depending on the operating system you are using, just type in Node. Are you serious? Node download, and then hit enter. Then you should see this or see download button, anyone. So, but if you see this, then you click on it. It will take you to the official documentation. Now, here you have a button to download Node. but make sure that you are downloading for your operating system. Currently, mine is set to Mac OS. So make sure you are downloading for your operating system. Then before you click download, that's all. There's not now when you click download, you get the raw file, right click on it and install. Node V. Now you are getting it now. So you have Node installed and you are going ahead to initialize npm on the terminal. No. You can't do this. First, you create a folder, then open up that folder with VS Code. It is inside VS Code that you run this npm in it. So you have Node installed now. So do this when you have opened up a folder with VS Code. It's showing up by the left side. I don't understand what you mean by showing up by the left side. Mine, this is actually the left side of my own part. And here, now if you click on it, that is when you will see it here. But if you can see it as one of your files here, I think you have no issues. It's only when you click on it that you will see all these things. But without that, no issues. It shows one. Okay, that means you try to type something here. Yeah, if it's showing one here, you try to type something and that one got us. I think, how do I get to that point? Let me see if no. But don't worry, save your package.json file. Make sure it is safe and it is showing this symbol. You are good to go. Nothing to worry about. I'm sorry about that, Gabriel. I don't know why, but be rest assured that you're not missing anything. You're not missing anything. The only thing we've done is to initialize npm, and that is all we've done so far. Now, even if we do more things, you will still have access to this video, and you can watch the videos anytime. So you have nothing to worry about. If you have installed it, open your VS Code. That's the easiest way. Open VS Code and type in node space -v. Now, if you see a number like this, then it means it is installed. Or open up any terminal at all, CMD, anyone. All you need to do is type in node space -v. If you see a number, it means that you've installed Node. But you won't see it on your system. Just open up your terminal in VS Code and then type in that. Any other questions? Should we proceed? I'm waiting for your questions. Any questions? So all we have done so far is to initialize npm, and that is the first step. So we've taken the first step to backend. We've not done anything. I can So if you are good to go, or if we should continue, please drop a thumbs up so that we can continue. Okay. Now, if you are looking, okay, if you are looking for the terminal, this here is your terminal. So just click this icon and you open up the terminal like this. Click here and you will see the terminal, this one here. Now, but if you open it and you don't see the terminal, maybe this is what you see, go to the next one, you find the terminal, click on the terminal here. Okay, the next step is after you initialize npm and you've created a first file, the next step is to set up your server. Now, there are so many ways to set up the server, and we'll go straight to the exact way to set up a server we will be using, even on a real-time project, and that is using Express. Now, I can also teach you how to set it up manually, but you will need to write so many lines of code, and there's no point doing that. There's absolutely no point doing that. So we need to set up your server. Now, if you are asked, what is Express used for? Express is the server, or Express is used to set up the server, or Express runs the server. Any definition you want to use, just put Express and the server in the same sentence. That is all. We are using Express for the server. Now, we can set up the server manually, but it will take a few lines of code, which we don't want to do. So we want to use Express. And the reason why we're using Express is this is exactly how you'll be building it in real-time projects. And also, Express makes it easier to handle anything about server. That is why we are using Express. And I want to believe you understood all these things I said. Because if you ask me to say it again, I may not say it again the same way I just said it now. Yes, Express is a Node.js framework, not an independent framework. A Node.js framework. Now, so if you come to this npm JS. Now, I told you before that there are some packages that come with Node when you install Node. Now, these packages, you can find them here, and one of them is Express. So if you type in Express here and hit search, now this is the Express we're talking about. It's a framework. Of course, you see the keyword there, Express framework, HTTP, RESTful, router, app, API. These are just keywords for when you search for it. So, but you just know that Express is a package that comes with Node. Now, it's like a Node.js framework. And it says here, it's a fast, unopinionated, minimalistic web framework for Node.js. So, Express is a framework for Node.js. Can somebody write Express without Node? Now, I've not seen where we use the Express outside of Node, because the only reason why Express exists is to be able to run server inside Node. So I have not seen where Express is used independently without Node, because the only reason why it actually exists is in order to run servers for Node.js. So, like I said, it's a package that comes with Node.js. And how do we use it? How do we use Express? Now, the first thing to do is to ask npm that we want to use Express in this project. Now, npm is the Node package manager. It has access to all the packages that come with Node. Now, if you want to use one of those packages, you need to invite npm that I want to use one of these packages, and this is the package I want to use. Please install it for me. And that can only happen when you have initialized npm. If you have not initialized npm, you can't use the packages that come with npm. And I just explained this thing now. If you don't want to go this process, cancel it. After you type npm init space hyphen yes or -y, that way you won't go through this process. And if you don't understand what this process is, just hit enter, and it will create it. Just hit enter, and it will create it for you. Like that. Raymond, just go ahead, hit enter, and it will create it for you. So like I said, we're using the Express. Now we can write it the normal way, but there's no need doing that, because you will not be doing that in people's project. You will not be doing that in companies' project. And like I said from the beginning, nobody is going to give you a project if you are a newbie. Nobody's going to hand over the server to you if you're a beginner. You need to be at intermediate level in order to handle any backend project. And that is why I'm not doing beginner stuff. You need to be on the intermediate level. Now, but there are some things I will explain to you. There are some concepts you may not understand that's needed. I will explain them to you. Anything you need to know, I will explain to you. But whatever I don't explain to you, for now, please just keep it aside. Just follow me on exactly what I'm explaining to you. Yes, you are done. So proceed. Yes, you are done. You have package.json file installed. Just make sure that you are seeing the name here. You should have package.json file installed. Good. So how do I install Express? Any of the packages you need, you should install it. Any of the packages you need. There will be so many packages you will use. You should install them. Now, the only reason why we are installing Express is because we need Express to set up the server. That is the only reason why we are installing Express. Now, we want to set up the server that will be listening for requests, whether a GET request, whether a POST request, a PUT request, or a DELETE request. How do I do that? npm install Express. That's all. So because we have initialized npm, we can tell npm to install any of the node packages that we need. npm install Express, we are simply saying npm install Express in this project. Outside of this project, npm Express is not going to be working for us. It is only going to be working inside this folder that you opened up. Inside this folder, not new folders you create. And I don't know why you're seeing red, but good job, well done. So npm install Express, and I'll hit enter. So this here, it is now installing Express, and I have errors. Why? Response bodily trying to catch it, can't find it, and can't find it, can't find it. So I can't install it with npm. Let me try something else. It might be on my own side. Yarn add Express. Okay, so npm has a brother. Whatever npm can do, there's another thing that can do it, and we call it yarn. npm and yarn. They both do the same thing. Now, npm comes immediately you install Node, but for yarn, you will need to install it yourself. It's been a while I used npm, and I think that's the reason why it's not working on my system. But npm will definitely work on your system. But if it doesn't, then you will be installing yarn and be using yarn. But npm will work on your system. And how do you install it? npm install express. That's all. It should work on your system, but you need network. We've not set up the server. We have not set up the server, Francis. We are just trying to show how to install packages that comes with npm. We've not set up the server yet, so you've not missed anything. So, but do let me know if npm is working on the end. If you're not following, no problem. You can do that later. I just want to show you. npm install express. You are trying to install express, and npm comes automatically the moment you install node. But for yarn, you have to install yarn independently. What is the difference? Before, the difference is this one installs old packages, but for now, there is actually no difference. And also, people were saying before that npm was slow, yarn was faster, but that's not true. Currently, they're both the same thing. They do the same thing. So if you use npm, if you use yarn, they are all doing the same thing. Now, how do you know your npm is installed? Look at here, I have dependencies. Did you install it? Okay, nice. I'm seeing dependencies here. It means you've installed npm. Nice. You've installed express. Nice. So what is dependencies and why do we have dependencies here? Like I told you before, package.json file is the most important file because it has all the information about the project. Without it, the project will not run. So down here, we are seeing an object. This is an object, and the name of the object is dependencies. And inside the object, we have express. So what is a dependency? A dependencies are all the packages that is needed for this project to run. In simple terms, everything that this project depends on to run. And one of them is express. So without express, this project will not run. So maybe it's network. Kenneth, check. Yours should be network. Check if it is the network. And I think, okay. Yes, yours is installed. That's nice. That's nice. Well done. So like I was explaining dependencies, everything that the project depend on to run. Without them, the project will not run. So all those dependencies, you will see them here. You will see them listed here. For now, we have only express, and that is why we have only express here. And going forward, I'll be explaining them one by one. And that is why I'm taking it very slow. All right. So having installed express, how do I then set up the server? So you come back here. Because we have installed express, the first thing to do is to bring in express. How do you bring in express? I say const express is equal to require. Oh, yes, I think I was right. I was right. It's been a way. Now I'm trying to do it the ES5 way so that it can run on every system. I'm trying to remember the easiest way I have done it on ES5. I think it's require const express, require express. You know what? But like I said, I'm actually making these mistakes on purpose. So you don't have to cram anything here. I'm trying to set up the server. All right. If you are trying to install Node and it's not working, fine. Listen to the class. And that is why I had to give you a heads up in the last class to go ahead and install Node first. But if you haven't, no problem. Just pay attention to the class. After the class, you have the video and you also have you can install Express. So like I said, we have Express as a package, this package under Node npm. Now, if you install Express and somehow you forget what I'm doing in class or what I did in class, you can always come back to this documentation, the npm documentation, and look for Express. Now, this is how to set up a server with Express. I'm trying to do it from my head, but I don't know whether I should do it first or I should show you first. This is a lot of codes, but don't worry, I will explain everything bit by bit. I will explain them bit by bit. So the first thing we are trying to do is to bring in Express. We are trying to bring in Express, and I say const Express is equal to require then the Express that we installed. Now, if you don't see this, know that you have not installed Express. So I have this. What I'm simply doing is I am saying this Express variable requires the Express that we have installed. Indirectly, all I'm saying is I bring in the Express I have installed and I put it inside this variable. So what is inside this variable now is the Express that I installed. That is the first step. And according to the documentation, that is the first step. Because the variable, Express variable, is the Express that will install. So when you see this hyphen, this means this was installed or this is a module. Now I will explain some of these terms as we go forward. So that is it. The next thing we want to do is set up our app. Const app is equal to the Express function. Now I called it the Express function because we are invoking it with brackets. But if I don't put it, it means this is the Express variable, which is this. And what is inside here is the Express that we installed. So this is going from here to here, then to here, and back to the app. So I call it a function because we need to invoke it with parentheses. Now, this is how we call a function. The difference here is here, this is Express variable. It is not being invoked. The variable there is carrying this Express. But at this point, it is being invoked as a function. So this app now is housing this function. So this is the first step, bringing Express. The second step is we are telling our app to run on the Express function. That's the first simple step. Now, according to the documentation, the next step is to start listening for requests. Start listening for requests. Now, we have brought in Express. We are telling our app, now you can call this anything you want. You can call it the server. So our backend app or backend server is running on the Express function. You can call it app, you can call it server. I like calling mine app like this. So the next thing you want to do is to tell this app or the server to start listening for requests. So here now we have the app listening for requests. But if we keep it like this, nobody can communicate with this server. But we need to add a port number here, any number from 5,000 and above. So this number here is our port number. Like I was trying to explain the IP address and the port number. So if the person that is trying to communicate to this our app is not using this port number, they will not be able to connect to this server that we are creating. So ladies and gentlemen, if you are using Express, this is the 3 lines to set up the server. Now, setting up the server is done once in the whole backend project. So you set up the server once and make sure that the server is running. Every other thing you do from then is just to build APIs and so on and so forth. But how do we know that we have actually set up the server? Okay, now from this documentation, they use 3,000, but I would advise you not to use 3,000. There's so many reasons, because 3,000 is a front-end number, but any number like 5,000, 8,000, 80, 81, whatever number you want. Now let me explain the idea of this port number. Say you build an application that has a backend with a port number 2000. That is for your own backend. And then we have Facebook using the same port number 2000. And we have Twitter using the same port number 2000. Now, all of you are using the same port number, and one user is using all these applications. What that means is that only one will be running on that device. Either it will be Facebook, either it will be Twitter, or either it will be your application. So if you are using the same port number that is being used by another application, it will be difficult for both of them to run. Now, if you have 3000 as your port number, most of the time, this is used as a port number on the front end. Like generally, developers know this. So as a developer, we just know that most times 3000 is a port number for front end. Now, if you use 3000 as your own port number, the chances are your backend will not run because that port number is in use. And you are going to experience this. Why do I say you experience it? Most of you will set up the server and will not remember to close it. So when you don't close it and you come back again for the next class, or maybe on your personal time, you want to set it up again, it will tell you that that server and that port number is currently being used. So your app will not run. So if you use a port number that is already in use, your app may not run. So most times I advise to go from 5,000 and above. 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, any of these numbers. It doesn't mean you cannot use 4,000. It doesn't mean you cannot use 3,000. It doesn't mean you cannot use 2,000. And the reason is to avoid using the same port number that is being used by another application. If you use a port number that is being used, the device will tell you. For example, this application will tell you. So if I have this server running on 3000, and I'm building another application running on 3000, it will tell me by default that this is being used. Now, let me show you that. How do I show you that? For example, I will open this up. This is where, this is not this place. This is where I have the app. I'll open it with a new terminal. Here, I will save this. And I will say node run. Is it index? Yes, index dot. Sorry, you can't see that. It's too small. Let me make it bigger. I think this is big enough. So I'm saying node run index.js. Hit enter. Okay, because I use the run. So I'll just say node index.js. Hit enter. Now, it is hanging like this. And that's how I know that my server is running, because it's hanging. That's how you know that the server is running. It's hanging. Now, if I come here again and still run the same thing. Node run index.js and hit enter. Now here it will throw a message and it says address already in use, and it's flagging the port number 3000. So the two of them will not run, although here I'm using the same application, but I'm just trying to show you that if it is two different applications, one will not run, one will run, the other will not run. So the first one will run, the second one will not run. But though it's still the same application, but I'm using two different ones. So what I need to do is to cancel this one with Control C. And if I try to run this one again, then it will run. Now I know it is running because it's hanging like this, and we're going to fix that. Let me do Control C. We're going to fix that up. So, but I want to use the server, the port number 8000. So to close the application from running, Control C, Control plus C will close it for you. So this, I have set up my server, but how do I know that my server is running? What I'll do here is put in a callback function. Who remembers what a callback function is? Now I am adding an arrow function here. Whenever this connects to port 8000, I want this function to run. So that is all I'm doing here. Whenever the app starts listening on port 8000, I want this function to run. So this function will only run when the app has started listening on port 8000. So what do I want to do? I want to console log server started running. So this way I know that my server has connected. Now this is I'm just trying to simplify this. There's no point bringing in too much things into this place and then bore you with all of them. But if you still don't understand this way that I have simplified it, then that is a very big problem, and it's not from me, because I have tried to simplify this as simple as possible. Now this thing I'm doing here, I can open up any project that I've built and you will still see this exact thing. But the only reason why I will not open it up, maybe not now or maybe not ever, is because I signed an NDA for them. So as a backend developer, before you start your project, there will be an NDA for you to sign. Sometimes it could be written, sometimes it could be verbal. So the NDA is that you will not show anybody another person's backend project, especially when you are paid to do so. But here I am trying to simplify everything so that on your own you can be able to set up a server. So now I have this. What I can do is open up my terminal again and then say node run index.js and hit enter. I have server started running and now it is hanging. By this, I know that my server is running. So with this little I have done, do you have any question? If you have a question, drop it now in the question and answer. With this little I have done on how to install Express and set up the server. Yes, you need network. Now, the backend takes a lot of data. Not a lot of data, but it needs data. For example, making requests to a backend cannot happen without data. So you need data to make requests. And okay, I don't know why you are seeing access denied. Do you mean the VS Code terminal or any other terminal? is it VS Code terminal? If you're having issues with VS Code terminal, I don't know why that will be happening. What you can do is close your VS Code and try open it again. It is your VS Code, close your VS Code, open the project again, and then try opening your terminal. Any question on what we have done so far? The first thing we did was to initialize npm that created the package.json file. The second thing again was to install Express, and I said there are a few things I will talk about, but let's just go straight to the main thing, how to set up the server. And we've done that here with Express, setting up our server. The first thing, bring in Express and store it in a variable called Express. Now create a variable for our server. You can call it anything. Either you call it the app or you call it server, and set it to run on the Express function here. The next thing is to tell the server or the app to listen on a particular port, which is this. And then you put a callback function to tell you when the server has started running. Any question on this? Because this server is running on my system, this server is local host. But when you are done building, there are a couple of places to deploy your server. Number one is DigitalOcean. Now, there are so many cloud storage that you can use. Number two is Heroku. Number three is AWS. You can use AWS. So this cloud storage, any cloud storage, of course, I'll show you how to deploy to one of them. Now, but for now, this server is running locally on my PC, on my computer for now. But when you are done, you can deploy to any cloud storage, any cloud hosting, and then it will be live. How to set up the server? Raymond, have you been here? Now, this is one thing that I'm trying to avoid so that we don't go back. So I am taking it very, very slow. The first thing we did is to install Express. And how did we install Express? We'll install Express by typing npm install Express like this. This is how we installed Express. Now you can make this shorter by saying npm I Express. This is the same thing with I. Now, if you want to uninstall Express, you can go with npm uninstall Express. Now, this simply means you are removing Express. Now, we're going to see how to remove packages that we don't need. We're going to see how to add packages that are just for development only and global dependency. So we're going to see that, but let's go step by step. How did we install Express again? npm I or npm install Express. Anyone will work. npm I Express or npm install Express. So when you do this, it will install Express. You should see node modules here. What is node modules? Node modules are all that is required for Express to run. This is where they will live in. Everything that is required for Express to run, this is where they will live in. Now, these node modules, I'm going to talk about it later, maybe in our next class or so. But for now, you have no need to go inside here. You have no reason to go inside here because most times this folder will be very big that you can't even go through every file that is inside here. So you have no reason whatsoever to go inside this node modules folder. That's it. The second thing is package.json. You should see Express under dependencies here. That's the second thing. So how do you set it up? You create a variable, call it express, and set it to require the express that you installed. Now, I am using double quotes here. You can use single quotes if you want. They're just the same thing. So here we are requiring the express that we installed, and we are storing it inside this express variable. The next thing is we create another variable for our app or the server. Now, some developers do is they require it immediately and they invoke it here automatically. So instead of app now, they can then add this here. Now, remember I said for every single thing, there are 3 different ways to do it. This is what some developers do. But the reason why I didn't do it this way is I want to simplify everything for you so that you see it. So at this, some developers, they skip this second step and then move straight to this. It's fine. Nothing wrong with it. But I had to show you all the steps involved. Bring in the express, store it in the variable, create a variable for the server or the backend. You can call it server, you can call it app, anything. Set it to run on the express function. And then tell the app to listen on a particular port. Then add a callback function that will tell you when the server has started listening. That is all. So this is how we set up the server. Okay, now your folder name doesn't have to be BE like my own. I use BE1 to tell me that this is the first time we are doing backend 1. That's me. So you can name your folder anything. Now going forward, maybe after our first 2 classes or after our first 3 classes, we will not be creating the server again and again and again and again, which is why I am still on this part, taking it very slowly, because these steps, you get to do them once. You don't do them every time. You get to do them once. And after then, you move on to other things. You will not create the server again until the end of that backend project. Even if the backend project will take you 3 months, 6 months, 2 years to complete, you create the server once. You initialize package.json once, and then you move on to other things. So we may not be creating server again, maybe after the 2nd class or maybe after the 3rd class. And that is why I am taking this part very slowly. So your folder doesn't have to be called BE. You can do it anytime. What will happen if I use command npm install? Now, for this npm install, let's say you have a project that has already been built, and in the package.json, you have a list of dependencies here. My project is running currently because I have node modules. If I delete these node modules, which I'm about to do now, I've deleted the node modules. The node modules is gone. Now, if I try to run my project with node run index.js, you see I have error, and the error says cannot find the module express. So it can't see express because I'm trying to run a project that runs on express, and it will not see all that express needs to run. So in a case where you have the package.json file, but you don't have the node modules, you can always get back the node modules. And how do you get back the node modules? You just type in npm install. Npm install, we come to the package.json file, look at all the dependencies that are here. For now, we have only express, but it will look at all the dependencies that is here. If they are 5, 15, 20, it will install all of them. For example, I'll do that again. Let me clear. So I'll do npm install. Now, this will not install on my own system. Now, this is, okay, it's actually installing. Okay, it's going, but now it's not going to. This is just for my own system. But for your own system, this will work. npm install. It will look through all the packages that are here and it will install all of them without you having to type them out one by one. It will install all of them. So for me, all I need to do is use yarn. Since I'm using yarn, I'll use yarn and hit enter, and yarn will install everything. And automatically I have my node modules back. If I type in node run index.js again, and I have my server started running. So when you are handed over a project, most time that project will not come with node modules. Maybe you got the project from GitHub, maybe it was handed over to you as a file, a zip file. However it was handed over to you, you may not see node modules. But so long as there is package.json file, you can always generate back the node modules with npm install. Now, this package lock is because I use yarn to install. I use yarn for my installations. That is why you see yarn lock. But if you use npm for your installation, you will see package lock. So instead of yarn lock, you'll be seeing package lock. That is if you use npm for your installation. Yes. It is when you install your first dependency that node modules will appear. Now, these node modules will house all the dependencies you install. Everything you install will be inside the node modules. So for now, the only thing inside the node modules are just for Express because I installed only Express. So when you install Express, that's when you see node modules. That's when you see package lock, the two of them. So I have my server running. My server is running here. And I want to try out the first thing. It is listening for requests. How do I test it that it will accept the requests and it will send back a response? So just bear with me. You may not understand what I'm typing, but let me just type app.get /about just bear with me. You may not understand this, but I will explain. Res.send and send back hello and save. Now, this simply means I am trying to handle a request. And if you look here, this is called get. So I am trying to handle a get request on our server. This app here represents our server. Now you can rename it as server if you want, but I like calling my own app. You can call your server, you can call it whatever you want. So I am trying to handle a get request on our server. So if there is a get request on our server, on this particular endpoint /about, I want you to send back hello like this. That's all I did here. So this is like a test. I'm trying to test whether this server that we've created is actually listening and can send back a response. Now this res here stands for response, and this is take the request, send a response like this. So I am typing them short, but you can type them in full, request and response. So this has to also be in full. So if you are typing in full, this has to be in full. So what I'm doing is, if there is a get request on our app and the request is coming to the endpoint /about, the same way we did users. So let's use users for example. We're getting a GET request on our app, and the request is coming to the endpoint /users. Accept the request. That is why this keyword is here. Accept the request. Send a response. The response you will send is what? Hello. That is all. Unlike what we did the last time, we are sending back an array of users and all of that. But for now, we are just testing. So we are just sending back a string of hello. So if I save this, I'll save this and come back to my browser and hit localhost. Now, this is localhost and this is the port. I need to make sure that I am going to the exact port. If I type /users and hit enter, nothing will happen because I'm going to port 3000 on my local host. What is local host? Local host is the URL that is pointing back to my computer. That is what localhost is. It is the URL that is pointing back to my own computer and is picking the port 3000. Now this is showing error because nothing is running on port 3000. It's actually running on port 8000. So I will change this to port 8000, which is 8. And now if I hit enter, I say cannot get users, and that's because you know what, let me change this to JSON. Response to get my server. Oh, my server is it running? Yes, it is running. Okay, I want to, the problem is here now. This server, we've not done too much. So anytime you make a change, you need to cancel the server and start it again. Otherwise, it will not work. Anytime you make a change, you cancel the server and start it again. Cancel it and start it again. That is why I have this error. If I refresh, I have hello being sent back. And this is the same thing that happens when you make a request to JSON placeholder. Let me just get that URL. This URL here. I'll copy this URL and I'll put it on my browser here and hit enter. Now for this one, I'm getting an object as a response. But for my own server, I'm just getting a string. So I can send back an object if I want. Let me write an object. So here, instead of this, I can put an object here that says name. Name is David. And what again? Location, lock is maybe ABJ, like that, and save it. So now I'm sending back an object as my response. And like I said, this server is still starting. So anything you do, you cancel and start the server again. You need to be restarting the server every time you make a change. So if I refresh this, now I'm not getting a string again. Now I'm getting an object. The same pattern with what we had here. So this is fetching me the ID for user 1. I can remove this one and I'll fetch all the users. Now I have all the users. Now our server can also do this if we have all of this data on our backend. So what do I mean? I can copy all of these users. Copy all of them to the end. The end is here. I type shift and I've copied all of them. I'll come back here. I'll create a new file and I'll call it users.js. Hit enter. Okay, this is a JSON and I don't need it to be JSON. I need it to be an object in JavaScript. I can say const users is equal to Ctrl V. Paste all of that. So I have this here. Save it. If you don't understand anything I'm doing, please ask questions. If you don't, please ask questions. So what I did was I had to make a request to this JSON placeholder, and I got all their data. Now, my own server is actually sending data, but it's not plenty data. So I got all the data from JSON placeholder, and I have created a file on my own system, and I stored all those data as an array. What I want to do is I want to use my own server to send back this response. So my server now will be sending back this response. How do I do that? Because this is in a different file and I'm using this index to send it out, I will import it here and I'll say const users is coming from, that is require from / this users.js that we created, and I'll save it. So instead of sending an object here, I will send back the whole user file here. So what I did was I created a file, an array, stored all the objects inside it. And then I can't use it here. I need to export it to be used outside. Now, I can't, if I don't export it, I cannot use it in another file. So that is why it is called a module. A module is either a package, a function, an array, a variable, anything that can be used outside of where it is created or it is initialized. That is what a module is. So for example, this user now is a module. I created it here. I don't want to use it here. So I have to export it. And then, and I can't use module export here. So let me export it as a module. So I can say down here as the last thing, module dot export. Are you kidding me? Is equal to users. So I'm exporting the users as a module because I don't want to use it here. And here I am importing it. I'm storing it inside a variable called users. And whenever a GET request is made, I'm sending back the whole user data. So here I need to cancel this server and restart again. Started. Now, if I refresh this GET request, I have all the data that is coming from that array. Now, this is a simple illustration of how to show you that you can set up the server, accept a request. So if this server, this one, will deploy it to a live server, and any front-end developer makes request to our server, they will be getting this data like this. So this is a simple way of setting up a server, asking the server to listen, and then accepting a request and sending back a response. So any question so far? Or do you even understand what I have done so far? This doesn't have too many lines of codes, but I want to believe that you know what every line is doing here because I had to explain them line by line, line by line. So, but if you still don't understand, ask a question wherever you have issues so that I can. Am I still in this call? Everywhere just looks like nobody's listening to me. Okay, thank you. So do you have any questions so far on what we have done now? This is just the basics, and I want to believe you are following the basics. Okay, now the user file itself here is a JavaScript. The main variable is an array and an object, but the data inside it is JSON. So there are two different things. So the data inside it is JSON. I don't need to format it. It is when the front-end developer gets the response, they will then format it to an object. But like I said, the format with which we send data from the front end to the back end or from the back end to the front end is in JSON. So that is why this is working. So I don't need to convert this to JSON again because it's already in JSON. And even if it's an object, it still will not affect it. I will still send it like that. So, but for right now, it doesn't really matter whether it's JSON or whether it's an object. It doesn't really matter because I am not using them. It's when you want to display them, when you want to use them, then you have to convert it to object first. Okay, Raymond, I understand that it's difficult to follow through, but there are key things I want you to take out of today's class. That even if you don't understand anything else, please know how to create this package.json file. It is very, very important. That is the main thing I want you to take out. How to set up npm init. That is the main thing I want you to take out as a first time now. But in addition, of course, you should be able to understand these 3 lines. How to set up the server, bring in express, set the function, express function, and ask the server to listen. So how to set up the server. Now, this part is the part where you will keep doing it over and over and over and over again until you become a master of it. What is this part? This is the part where you build your API. So all of this put together is referred to as your API. So this is a perfect example, although it's small, it's not doing much, but it's just a perfect example of the API. It accepts the request. Here, when a GET request is made to the app, on this endpoint, this function will run. So this function is accepting the request here and also is going to be sending back a response. So it is not doing anything with the request now. So it doesn't matter what it's not doing anything with the request now. Rather, it is just sending back the data to the front end, back to the front end. Yes, okay. Do you mean change? Yes, you can actually, if you want to. I think that's like going too far to make this a JSON file. Yeah, that's like going too far because you have to convert everything here back to JSON. Everything here needs to be JSON, but I don't know why you need to do this. Everything needs to be JSON, including the array itself needs to be in JSON. But I don't know why you should. There's no need to bother about that. Would you like to undo the renaming? Yes. There's no need to bother about that. The reason is this. Whether it's an object, whether it's a JSON, it doesn't really matter. At this point here, there's a reason why I'm adding .json here instead of .send. The reason why I changed this from send, which is ordinary send will just send anything, whether it's array, whether it's JSON, anything, just send it like that. But if I add JSON here, this is me explicitly saying that the response or whatever it is that I'm sending back should all be in JSON. So what the data was initially doesn't really matter because at this point here, I'm explicitly saying that whatever it is that is inside this bracket should be sent as JSON. So it doesn't really matter whether it's an array. They might use JSON. Like I said, there are so many ways people do these things. Some person could use JSON, some person could use array, but it doesn't mean that what you are doing is not making sense or you are wrong. No, this can be an object. Like I said, this can be an object. I can actually change some of these things to be an object, just like this. It doesn't really matter. It can be an object, it can be a JSON, however you want. But here, I'm explicitly saying that whatever you are sending has to be in JSON. So if it was an object, it will be converted to JSON before it's sent. If it's a JSON, then it will be sent like that. So it doesn't really matter whether it's an object or whether it's a JSON. It just sends the response, but it has to be in JSON. Now, if I use only send, now this is where you will have error because you are just sending the data. The data format has to be JSON. Now, some of them are JSON, some of them are not JSON. So you are going to have error. Now, if you don't have the error, it means that the front-end developer will have the error. So one of you will have the error because the data type is not valid. It's not a valid data type. That is why. But if you as a backend developer change this send to JSON, then insurance covers you like that. There's no need bothering whether some of them are objects, some of them are JSON. It doesn't really matter anymore. What is JSON? Now, how else do I want to explain this so that you understand? The difference here and here, assuming you know what an object is, I'm assuming that you know what an object is. This is an object. This is a JSON. What is the difference? The difference is the keys here are not in quotes, but the keys here are in quotes. So when the keys are not in quotes, it's an object. But when the keys are in quotes, it's a JSON. So that's the difference between JSON and object. So what is JSON? JSON is JavaScript object notation. Object notation, like for objects notation. And it is the format with which we send and receive data. The format with which we send and receive data. So that's what JSON is. And I think I've tried to simplify the explanation. So that's what JSON is. JSON is the format with which we send and receive data. And to be able to know that it is JSON, it is when the keys and the values are, or especially the keys, when the keys appear in quotes, then that is a JSON. But if the keys are not in quotes, that is an object. That's all. So, any other question before we call it a day? Now, like I said, if you don't understand everything, fine, no problem. We go again tomorrow. If my father would say, if the bushmeat runs away today, we'll catch it tomorrow. But the most important thing I want you to understand or pick up from today's class is how to initialize npm and create package.json file, because that one is like once in a project, and sometimes I don't even get to do it for certain projects. I can't even remember the last time I did it. I think I did npm last year. So most times that's like we forget it. We tend to forget it because it's like the first thing we forget it. So be very certain that you can create the package.json file. And the first thing is you should be able to set up a server now. But if you can't set up a server, no problem. Try it on your own. But I will still teach it again tomorrow. The reason why I don't send these videos directly myself is this video is about 2 hours, or maybe 2 hours plus. And the file size is going to be around 500 MB, 600 MB. And I don't know why I should be sending you 500 or 600 MB. So I need to compress it before sending it out to you, which is why you notice the delay in getting the video. That is why you notice delay in getting the video, because I need to compress it before sending it out to you. It says localhost, how do I get it out? I don't know where you are typing this thing in. I can't really see what you're talking about. Your server is running. Your endpoint, you've not created any endpoint here now. I'm not seeing any endpoint. So why do you want to? Is this a different file? These two things, are they the same file or they are two different files? This is the one I think you're working on, and I think that's exactly what's here. So you can't open this in localhost, because if you look at mine, I'm actually handling the request down here. This is not part of the server. This is where the server ends. Now on this part, I am now handling requests by building APIs. So I just did the first one to show you a test, but I will do this again in our next class. So no need to worry, I'll still do it again in tomorrow's class. And any other question? Now this is the main challenge, because if you don't install Node, it will be very difficult to follow along. Now this is what I will do. For the last time, please try and follow me. I will type in Node, download. Now, if I click download, it will start downloading automatically for me. And once it's downloaded, you go to your folder, go to the folder and go to download. I think I should have NodeJs here. Yeah, I have Node here. You should see the file. Right click on it and install. So, but here I don't have install. But if you don't find install, double click on it. Just double click on it and it will install. If you install it the first time and you have error, it shows you that Node is not recognized. Install it again. Install it again. Now, but this time, make sure that when you are installing, if you see repair, select repair, and that should work. That automatically should solve the problem. Installing Node should not be a problem at all. Installing Node should not be a problem at all. So that being said, I want to stop there for today's class. But ask your questions. If you have any question, please go ahead and ask your questions. Any questions, go ahead and ask your question. So this is a simple server we've built. There's still a lot to understand, but it will be very good for you if every step I take, you understand it. So try and follow me every step I take. And I gave you yes, Aben, for the new students, go ahead, go ahead. Okay, you need me to drop the GitHub link for now. I don't understand why, as an old student, you'll be submitting your assignment using Google Drive. We have passed that stage for the old students. Now, what I will do is I will use this file to explain how to upload your files to GitHub again. Because now I might understand from the point of view for the new students, not being able to submit their assignment with GitHub, but for the old student, of course, you should be able to submit your assignment with GitHub. Now, I'm not punishing you. The reason for that GitHub is this. When you are done with this project, anybody that wants to hire you, be it Access Bank, be it anybody, they will want to see what you have done. That's the first thing they will ask you. Show us what you have done. Nobody's interested in your certificate. Now, since I graduated from the University of Port Harcourt to date, my certificate is in the house. Like, it is with my father. I don't have not like I don't have access to it. I've never collected it since. He's the owner of the certificate now. I've not used it. Nobody will ask you to bring your certificate. They will ask you, show us what you have done. Some persons will ask you for CV. Some may not. But as a backend developer, they will always ask you to show us what you have done. Now, you need to send them your GitHub link. Now, if you send them your GitHub link and you only have 1 or 2 things there, they will say you are not serious. But if you are following this class, you're submitting assignments, you are doing stuff, pushing them to GitHub, by the time you are done with this training, you should have not less than 20 or maybe 15 repos on your GitHub. Now, even if those repos are not big repos, at least I will give you 1 or 2 that will be big repos, big projects. When you show it to them and they see your code base, they know that you have done something. By seeing it, they know that you have done something. But if you are submitting your assignment to Google Drive, I wonder what you will show to them when you are attending an interview and they ask you, show us what you have done. If you open Google Drive, they will think you don't know what you're doing. Because it's only when you open GitHub that they will know you understand actually what it means to write codes. So please, submitting assignment to Google Drive, for me, especially for the old student, at this point, is not accepted again. Please push your codes to GitHub and submit the link. For the new student also, this is your 2nd week. And I also want to believe by the old student, by the 2nd week, they were already submitting with GitHub. So I will do that GitHub again now. Please follow along and so that you can submit all your assignments using GitHub. So how do you use GitHub? The first thing is you need to create a GitHub account. You need to create a GitHub account. And I already have a GitHub account. That is why it's landing in here. But you should create a GitHub account with your Gmail, create a password and all of that. You should be able to log in anytime you want. Now, here I have new. And also here I have a plus sign for new repository. A repo or a repository simply means a folder. So, but because this is on GitHub, we call it repository, but it simply means a folder. You're just creating a folder to store your codes on GitHub. That's all. Now, GitHub doesn't only store codes. There are a lot of developers I've worked with. I've never seen some of them, and I will never see some of them because most of them are not even in this country. So how do we communicate? How do we work together? We use GitHub to work. Now, I'm going to show you that later in the course of this training. But for now, let's just say that for GitHub, you need to store your codes and to submit your assignment. So either you click here, new repository, or you click here, new, when you have created an account. So I'll click new. Then it will ask me to give this folder. Now, repository simply means folder. It will ask me to give this folder a name. I can call it anything I want, anything. Just call it anything. It will tell you whether that name is available. But if you have a folder that is already called anything, then that folder will not be available. This name, rather, will not be available. Here, you can choose to add a description if you want. It's optional. But this is the most important part. Public and private. If you keep it on private, it means nobody will see it. Only you, or except you invite me via email. So I won't see it. But if you keep it public, everybody will see it and everybody will have access to it. So this is what I will say. Keep all your repos public. Now, except you are being paid to write that code. Then that's when you keep it private. But keep all your repos public so that when you attend an interview and they ask you to show us what you have done, if you send them your GitHub link, because it is public, they can see it. But if you keep it private, they will not see it. And they will assume. And I think there's a particular person. What is his name? I'm looking for the person, but I'm going to submit a name. Some person submitted a GitHub link, and I think their GitHub repo is on private. I couldn't see the assignment, but I'm going to get the name. So keep all your repos on public, and then create. Hit create to create. That's the first step. You've created it. Now the next step is click on upload an existing file. You will see it here. Upload an existing file. when you click to upload an existing file, it will open it, drag all those files you created. I have mine here, inside here. So this is all the files. Now, but because this is backend, you will not be sending node modules. So it is very dangerous to upload node modules. Even GitHub will not allow you. So you pick the ones that you want to send. You see, I've selected everything without node modules. So you drag and you drop. Are you kidding me now? Here, drag and drop. So this is how you upload to GitHub. So if it's done uploading, you can click commit changes. Commit changes. Then you can share this URL here or this URL here. This one or the one here, anyone. They're all the same thing. So you share this URL with me on Google Classroom. That is how you submit your assignment. So I'm going to drop this one here now and hit enter. So actually, you can create a GitHub account on your phone. Go to github.com, and I think it is github.com to create an account. And then, yeah, now I'll go ahead with your question. And also, for the old students, in order for the new students not to draw us back every time, please attend to any questions you see them answer. And also, the new student, we have a class rep for now. We're going to get another one. So Ms. Sommer is also here to assist you on any question. You can DM her privately and she'll also assist you. And if you also have questions, drop it. I will also assist you. Yes, for the old new student. Now, what you need to learn is different from what we are learning currently as a new student. So you need to catch up on JavaScript and JavaScript especially. So, but what we are doing now is introduction to backend. We've not done much on JavaScript. So you should be able to follow up today's class and tomorrow's class. But I will use today and tomorrow to check my schedule and see which date we can use for if there will be need for a makeup class, especially for the newbies. If there will be need for a makeup class, I will tell you so that we can do that. And also for the new student, you have 6 assignments ahead. Now, for this program, they are looking at getting the best students from this program. I don't know if that was actually, if you got that orientation. So your assignments are taken very seriously. Meaning, if you submit your assignment when the deadline, I might accept it, but I may not give you full mark again because the deadline has passed. So do well to submit before deadline and do well to submit all your assignments. Now, for the new student, you are behind by 6 assignments. That's like 2 weeks. So I will figure out a way to send you your assignments. I don't know if I should give you the 6 of them at the same time so that you catch up with the front end guys, but I'll figure out which is the best way to do that. Now, if you create one repo and you have subfolders, that's your choice. If you want to do it that way, and that's your choice. The reason is this: what if you have a project that you don't want to show? Well, any which way is up to you. That's if you share the link with any HR, you should be able to tell them where to look for or where to look. Just guide them where to look. That's fine. Yeah, the old assignment, I don't know if I should send all of them at the same time. Like I said, they're looking at getting the best students, and also your assignment and attendance is taken very seriously. So let me say this. There are some persons who are submitting the assignment, they are doing well, but they are not on my attendance. Now just know that you may not be taken as part of the best students because attendance is very, very much required. They want to know that you can do it. They also need to know that you were in class. So submitting the assignment without being in class, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. Yeah, submit any assignment. Now, on the submission of assignment, like I said, please, the assignment topic is only for assignment. Do not ask questions. Do not drop comments there so that I don't miss people's assignment. So if you have any assignment to submit them in the assignment topic, and I'll pick them up. And if you have questions, drop them in the question and answer topic, and I'll attend to them. How to mark attendance. Now, we have a topic for attendance. It's called class attendance. The moment you join the live session, you drop a thumbs up in that class attendance. The moment you join the live session, you drop a thumbs up at the class attendance. And the moment I end the session, any attendance you drop again, by the time I've ended the session, it doesn't count. If you have dropped a thumbs up, there is no way I will miss your thumbs up. So your attendance is secured. I also drop names of those who submitted assignment. That's already a big work, but we'll do that one. So, but if you drop a thumbs up, now don't drop 2 times. There's no point dropping thumbs up 2 times. You're just making it difficult. So just drop thumbs up once. I will pick up everybody that drops a thumbs up from the moment we start the live session to the moment we end it. That's when the attendance counts. So it doesn't count after that time. It doesn't count. Okay. I don't know. So you've been part of all the classes. It's all right. Okay. Just drop your assignment and I'll see all of that. So any other questions? Like I said, we've not done much. I just showed you a little of what we can do, but please, you can try this out on your own. Make sure to understand. Now, you're not doing this in order to submit assignments. No, let your goal not be to submit assignments. Also, let your goal not be that you want to be part of the best students. No. Now, even if you're not a best student, doesn't really change anything. Like I said, nobody that is good with backend that is not employed, because backend developers are not even enough. Now, the front-end developers, we have about, on the front end, we have, I think about, it should be up to 300 students now. It should be up to 300 students on the front end. And on the, I don't know if it's cybersecurity or data science, about 600 or so. But for the back end, we have less than 35 people turning up. Then imagine who are those people that will be building front-end developer projects? Who will be building the back end for them? Now, some people see back end to be very difficult, but I doubt. Back end is very, very simple. It's even simpler than front end. So I don't know why people rush to front end first and leave the back end. But what I'm simply saying is back end developers are not enough, and there is no software you build without the back end. The back end is needed for every software. So, like I said, if you are good, let your goal be that you can handle the back end. The moment you can handle the back end, your whatever resources you put in to learn this project is not in vain. So that's all I have to say. It's fine. But like I said, just drop 1 thumbs up. But if you drop 3 already, leave it. There's no point deleting it. In next class, just drop only 1 thumbs up and we're good to go. Like that. And like I said, you can get the videos, but the problem is, okay, I will try and compress again to see whether you can get the videos before the next class. I will try. I'll try to see if you can get the videos before the next class. Aliyu Usman, I think I have your attendance. So your name is actually, I'm very conversant with your name, Aliyu Usman. I know you mark attendance, so you don't have to. Actually, you mark twice. You mark twice or even 3 times. So I have your attendance. So if there is no more questions, can we drop thumbs up so that we can end today's class? If there are no more questions, can you drop a thumbs up so that we can end today's class? Sadiq Isa, okay. All right, thank you so much for coming to today's class. I'll see you again tomorrow. So go through what I've sent to you. If you have any questions, I will attend to them tomorrow. Thank you and do have a good night rest.